because we'll always talk about the good stuff before we get on.
Right,
Yeah.
right. We're totally gonna talk about that. All right, awesome.
And can you turn that light on? I think I need to.
Yep, says we're streaming live now. So welcome to the Faika broadcast, our midweek on a Tuesday. Today is November 10th, 2020. And I'm your host, Carl. With me, as always, your lovely host, Nackie. Good evening, Nackie.
Hey.
And with us today, we have Kiki, or Auntie Kiki, known to many. She's the founder, owner, and director of Taupou Samoa Polynesian Dance Troupe. Kiki is the daughter of late High Talking Chief Iole Longona Rapi Sotoa of Ta'u Manua and Eseta Talamai Vau Faumuina Sotoa of Fanga'alu, American Samoa. With us, Kiki's lineage derives from the villages of Ta'u Manua, Fanga'alu, American Samoa, and Satalo Faleali'i, Fangaloa, Lepea, Upolu, Samoa. Kiki is a longtime community leader and a familiar face and voice in the Pacific Islander community in San Diego, California. She has served her community as the president of the Samoan Community Council of San Diego, a board member of the Pacific Islander Festival Association, of which we've been meaning for years to get to. We're going to do that in 2021. A Polynesian outreach coordinator for the Oceanside School District, and a Samoan community leader and liaison in the 4th Diamond District, just to name a few. Kiki started Taupou Samoa in 1990 while holding down a career as an immigration officer for the INS. In 2003, she launched Polyrobics, a Polynesian fitness workout consisting of Polynesian dance and aerobic movement. This year, Taupou Samoa celebrates their 30-year anniversary. Congratulations on that. Welcome to Faika, Kiki.
Thank you so much. Talo Falava, Malu Moa. Thank you so much, Annette and Carl, for having me on here today. It's a privilege and an honor to be here to chat with you and just to share.
It's our honor. We got our social media. We put your promotion up, and it just started popping off. Like Facebook, Instagram, like just blew up in a heartbeat. So we knew it's special to a lot of the community to have you on. From some of the comments, I think you just tell it how it is. I can tell from a lot of people that are saying, hey, she keeps it real. If you got questions, go ahead and ask, and she'll answer them straight up. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we need to get down there and see you. We've been meaning to get to PIFA for, like, this was the year that we were like, no matter what happens, and we actually blocked it off on the calendar at the end of last year. We were like, we are getting to PIFA, and then COVID came, so we still didn't make it this year.
Right.
Did PIFA do anything virtually, or did everything just get pushed back for a year?
They actually did. They did a virtual this year. It was different. Of course, it was just kind of new to everybody, and it was a different experience. They did do virtual, and they did a great job. I mean, considering, not every group was able to do their actual performances. Just a few groups got together because it was it was the height of the COVID at that time as well. Some people, if they couldn't get together to do a performance, they were able to submit like old performances from shows that they've done in the past, but not done at PIFA. So they were able to submit those performances as part of their segment.
That's
It was
awesome.
good. It was good. I mean, the fact that they still did it was great.
Yeah.
I seen the advertising for it and it looked great. We missed catching it, but before we get into everything that you're doing, can you just tell us a little bit about, where you come from, who your parents are, how this amazing woman got here, and tell us about your family and everything about that, and then we'll get into everything else.
Oh, golly, geez. I'm 21 years old.
Yes, girl.
So I am very blessed and honored to be here this evening just to tell a little bit about myself and the group. I was born in my favorite city, the Bay. I was born in San Francisco, California. I am a 49er fan. Woo-woo. But my father was in the military. I am the youngest of 6 children. So my dad was in the Navy, and um, in fact, we lived in Hunters Point. I am proud to say, born in the Army Hospital in San Francisco. Grew up in Hunters Point until I was 3. Then we moved to the East Coast. My father was stationed there in Newport, Rhode Island, and then Washington, D.C. We stopped in there, and then he got sent to Vietnam in 1968, 69, 68. So he took my mom and all of his kids to Samoa for a year while he did his tour in Vietnam. That's where I first started my first grade, first started school there. After a year, he came back, brought us here, and we settled here in San Diego. So we've been here since 1969. Basically grew up here. I started first grade in Samoa because they didn't have kindergarten at the time. So when we moved here, I had to repeat first grade. One was because I didn't do the kindergarten year, and 2, for some reason, I couldn't speak English at the time, go figure. So we started here, we settled here in San Diego. My dad retired here. So we've been here since 1969. Basically grew up here at the First Samoan Congregational Christian Church of San Diego. At the time, it was under the leadership and founder of Reverend Suitonu Ngaleai. That was in 1969. And we're still proud members to be serving now under Pastor Reverend Fa'afowina Solomona and his lovely wife, Tui Tonga Matoe. And so we're still members here. The church is the first church here in the United States, first Samoan Congregational Church here in the United States. So that's basically where I grew up. I learned a lot of our Samoan culture, not only in the home. Our parents spoke Samoan to us. We did everything lived by through our Samoa way in the home, through the church. Grew up in the youth group in the Otelavo. My parents started a dance group. I'm the youngest of 6, so it was like, gosh, I want to
You
say
had your own dance group at home.
it was just a little family group, you know. My mom was the dancer, and my dad was the MC. My brothers and my cousins were the musicians. My 3 older sisters were the dancers, and I was just the little one. I want to say I was probably like 8 or 10. My only job was just to do the tawalunga that I didn't even know a thing about. Just get out there and just do your thing. And I watched my sisters dance, and I was just always so intrigued. And then in I don't even want to try to guess the year, but my sisters were asked to perform in a jubilee for Reverend Suitonu at the time. So they learned a whole Polynesian show, and I would go to the rehearsals with them every day. So I was learning all their dances, and I wasn't even nowhere near close being part of their production. So I think from there, I knew that that was just my passion. I just loved it. I was so intrigued. I just was so in love with it. And I also had a first cousin, her name is Soitmele Sotoa Reardon. She lived here in San Diego at the time and was starting up her own little dance thing. And I would literally walk a long distance to her house just to learn, just to dance. And that's where I started kind of learning more of Tahitian dancing and hula. And so things just kind of flourished from there. We started the Aotearoa at our Samoan church in 1979. And so they had asked me at the time to help teach our youth group, and I was 16. I think because of the little interest, the little background that I had learning, and then the interest that I was showing, they asked me to help teach our songs and dances for our youth group. So that's kind of where I think it all started, where it really took off. Just being there as a teacher, teaching my brothers and sisters at the church, and even members of the Aotearoa, which is a youth group who were older than I was. It was, you kind of go through those challenges of trying to teach people who are older than you and people who were your age, and just kind of dealing with that. Went through high school, was very involved in everything in high school. And then just trying to, as a Samoan, I can speak for as a Samoan woman or a girl at that time, you kind of have to juggle. Not kind of, you do. You juggle everything in your life. You juggle your home life, which is being there to learn, doing fi'aus, serving your parents. And then you do the church involvement where you participate in the Alto Lavo, A'onga Sa, your Sunday school, going down, cleaning the church, cleaning the hall. And then when you want to do extracurricular activities at school, well, good luck.
Yeah.
So
Right.
so and then because I think that was my passion, and that was uh-oh, are you still there?
Yes.
I think I
Yes.
kinda okay, let me see if I can get you back on here. For some reason it went off. Just give me a second. Can we go to a commercial break?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? We
Just
still
give me one
see you.
second. Let me get this back on. I don't know why it went off.
Your camera is still on, so we can still see you.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you see me giving the eye to my daughter, like, can you fix this?
Rana.
Okay, as I was saying, it's just juggling as a young Samoan, even Polynesian, Pacific Islander, but I
Right.
know specifically as a young Samoan girl or Tene or Tamaitai, it was at that time, and this is like in the late 70s, early 80s, is trying to juggle your whole family life, school life. And it was a lot. It was a lot to take on. And you were constantly busy. You were constantly having to live up to the expectations of your parents and your family and your church. And so it was a lot. And at the time, you feel a lot of pressure. But at the time, I was embracing it. Of course, I had my challenges, but I was embracing it, and I was really thriving from it and didn't even realize it.
Were you envious of like the other, because you had all kinds of responsibilities. Like you had, responsibilities to the church, responsibilities to the family. Were you envious at all of like there's other kids at school that like school, it's over, and then they're just gonna go do like run wild for whatever, they until dark, they can do whatever they want. Did it ever strike you as like, wow, how do they get to be able to do that? Or did you even notice that?
Well, yeah, I did notice that. You see your peers, especially the girls at school, you could tell that their lifestyle was a lot different. Their home life was a lot different. After school to them was, I get to go home, hang out with my friends, go to the mall, go do this, go do that. And my after school was, I got to go home, do my chores, do my homework. You're lucky if you get to talk on the phone because that was not allowed. And it was landline. It wasn't even no cell phone,
Right.
So if you had to talk on the phone, God forbid you couldn't have a boyfriend,
Right.
But for some reason, I was blessed enough in high school. I was a cheerleader in high school. I was involved in ASB. I was a commissioner of activities. I was doing sports. I played volleyball, basketball. So I was able to do a lot of things after school, but it didn't sway in any way from my responsibility. So I would literally run from school after cheer practice. I would literally run down to the church, do what I'm supposed to do practices, do whatever it was I was supposed to be doing at the church. And then by the time I get home, you're tired,
Yeah.
and then you just kind of have to get up the next day and start over, so.
I think our growing up, and I think it's just as Samoan girls, that's all So when I used to see my friends, like they would go to the mall or go, and I have to go home and do fi'aus. I don't think it was just, that's what we did, right? I was like, oh,
Right.
we didn't wear, certain clothes because we couldn't. And we had landlines. So if you're going to talk on the phone, you're going to talk in front of everybody.
Right.
So
or my sister never lets me live this one down, but it was like pull the cord and the phone to the room after the parents go to sleep. You're talking to your love interest at the time, so you think, and and then when the bill comes, they're like, hey, why is the bill
on the
so
phone? Right. For this many minutes. I was like,
yeah. So those were, I think, the challenges, and I think the most rewarding, and little do we know, like if we today we look at ourselves today and you look back and you realize, wow, that was really molding me to be the person that I am today. And you know, I mean, I can only say that I'm very blessed and realize, you know, like, wow, that really was my path, and that was really what I was meant to be doing. That has brought me to where I am, you know, and you don't realize it at the time, but it is. I am a crybaby, so if I end up crying,
Me
I'm
too. Me
I am
too.
like,
I know.
I
I'm
am
listening
like
to your
the
story.
worst.
I'm like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. I'm the biggest crybaby. But I just wanted to shout out some people real quick who are just screaming your name.
Oh,
Of course, your sister Patsy,
yeah,
sister love.
I love you,
Sending,
Patsy. That's my sister love.
Brittany Dwayne,
Yes.
Narisa Suolevai.
Oh yes. Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh.
gosh, there's so
Yes.
many. Willie Solivea, of course, we love
Oh, I
Willie.
love you, Willie. Thank you,
There,
Nerissa.
oh my gosh, there's my mom is on Talofa Kiki.
Which child is that?
Right. So it's my mom is on, she's screaming your name, but there's tons of people on sharing their love for you. And I just have to say, because Patsy is on, your family, and I think, and this says a lot about your parents, the work, the community, the love you guys have for the community, the betterment of okay, I'm not gonna cry. Pacific Islanders, you know, like when I go to Chula Vista or San Diego, you're everywhere. You are everywhere, sister. You're helping, you're running Taupo. Your daughters they follow in your footsteps. They're freaking amazing. The fasamoa that you put in your kids and just the way you carry yourself. And then we see Patsy here in San Francisco running around, you know, doing community work. I really think that, well, it says that your parents have instilled this in you. Have you always had a love for helping the community? I know Patsy is like crazy amazing, but and so are you. Like it's in you guys' bloodline. So
Yes.
has that always been in your parents and they just
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm gonna cry, but anyway, yeah, absolutely. So my mom and Patsy's mom are sisters. Um, my mom is the oldest of all her siblings, and they both happen to marry two men from Manua. One from Ta'u and one from Fitiuta, and they're both very proud Manukans. They're both very proud men of Manua, and you know, I think that's probably a lot of the commonality that Patsy and I have is that mixture. You know, we have our Samoan and our grandmother is half Irish, and so we have that in us, and that's where we have, you know, I think the heart of love and generosity and giving and grace, you know, and loving. And then from our dad, you know, we learn, you know, about pride and in both of our parents. But, you know, some of the things I can speak for my dad. I know Patsy feels the same way, but for my dad, it was a very proud man. They're very well versed and well respected in their Samoan, in their Samoa, and their Samoan roles and responsibility, whether it's through the church and whether it's through family. So they were a strong figure in their families. And I know that we were both brought up almost identically the same way. She was just in the Bay Area and I was here. Patsy came down to San Diego to go to San Diego State. So Patsy stayed with me during that time, and we're not going to go back in those days, but we had, I mean, Patsy and I are 9 years apart, and I just had this connection with her since she was just a toddler. Like, I mean, I remember holding her as a little cousin. We would always come up to San Francisco every summer. Our families were very close. We grew up together very close. And to this day, like she and I are very close. I mean, if it's like she's my true blood sister. And so we've gone through the same growing up. Our parents were strict, but very set in their ways, and they were ways that they taught us so that we can be, so we understand, and we were better people because of it. And we knew our Samoa, we knew God first, and just everything that we're supposed to know, and be able to serve. And I think a lot of that had to do with serving. They served in their church. They held positions in their church, both parents. They were always serving. And I think with that as an example, I think that's a lot where we get it from, is be able to serve, do something for the betterment of your people, do something. And for some reason, for me and Patsy, it was our Samoan people, because you can't take care of other people until you take care of yourself. And so for us, in order for me to take care of my family, I have to take care of myself. And so for us to take care of our bigger community, we have to take care of our own community. Right. And I think that spoke a lot. Those are the teachings that we grew up with. And I think that spoke a lot to us. And not everybody can do this kind of work.
Right.
Not everybody can do this kind of work. And I think truly God blessed her. She does an amazing job. I'm so proud of her. She's like, trust me, we all know Patsy. I don't know if y'all knew Patsy when she was in high school and, her early years in college, but it was a different Patsy back then. Patsy, sorry, Sister Love, it's about you right now. But I know when Patsy stayed with me, poor thing, I would drag her in the car, playing my music, Samoan music. And she'd be like, this is kind of fob for me, but okay, I'll stick it out, but she would listen to me while I choreograph my music. And so she was exposed to that. And then I think Patsy's journey shifted because she came here to do criminal law, but her passion and her journey shifted. And I was just so happy and thrilled that she took this journey, because it really was her calling, And so I always tell her, girl, she used to be like, man, she used to say, dang, I look up to you. And I'm like, girl, we're the same, So of course I'm a lot older. So then we got to a point where we were kind of like, dang, you doing your thing in Frisco, I'm doing my thing in San Diego. All right. Then she done like, wham, she like full speed, passed me up. I was like, girl, I bow down to you now, So it was kind of like a full circle where we kind of started as a older sister, younger sister, and now she just kind of way over supersede me. And I'm like, girl, I'm too old. I can't even catch up with you. So yeah. She's doing amazing work, and I'm super, super proud of her. So
not to make you cry, but she's on here and she says, I follow the example that God placed in my life. Aww. You are my example, my inspiration.
Oh, thank you, sister.
Oh my God.
The show's called Faika for a reason. We get to find out about Patsy Cheeto's college days.
Yeah, we text each other all the time. We message every week, sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a week, almost every day. So we're always constantly texting each other.
What an amazing family. And, like Nackie said, that's the legacy that a generation of before leaves, right? The generation before leaves behind the legacy of family and love and culture and spirit. And to see the things that their generation behind them are doing, there has to be nothing but pride in the way that you're conducting yourselves, that you're maintaining the Samoa. That I think that's an issue, that a lot of the Pacific Islanders maintaining their culture and maintaining their spirituality and their faith, I think it's a good example to see what can be done. So a credit to the parents, the generation above, that were able to imprint those values and those ethics with you. Do you see that? Are you concerned about the same thing happening for the generation behind you? Not necessarily in your family, because it's very strong, it's very solid, it's very all the the culture, spirit, language, the faith is very strong in your family. Does it concern you that other families may not have that kind of base, or that the culture will pass down that way?
Absolutely. It's hard, I think, because we live here in the mainland, in the U.S. United States, right. And when we came, I mean, our parents were first generation. And so I feel very fortunate to live in this particular lifespan because we were able to get that.
Yeah.
And so at that time growing up, we would say, Dad, I wish I knew my grandmother, grandfather back then, because we could learn a lot more. But we didn't, but we were actually learning from our own parents.
Right.
And so as each generation goes, it gets diluted. There's no doubt about it.
True.
Especially if we're not living in our homeland, our motherland, we're not living there. We don't get to fluently, consistently exercise our Samoa way, whether it's speaking the language, doing the work, and I'm sure they're going through an evolution, like a time revolving as well there. But here, if we aren't speaking Samoan fluently to our children, how are they gonna, the way our parents spoke to us, how are they gonna learn the way we did? And I'm at fault as well, because I don't speak fluently to my kids. It's just so much easier and convenient to speak English. And so I do know that has happened, and it continues to happen, where we lose that communication, that connection of being connected to your culture through language, whether it's through performing arts in whatever form.
Right.
But I know today, I mean, now there are different pockets and different groups that are trying to go back, such as people offering Samoan classes, courses, going back and helping teach the Samoa, and just even the language, because I think it's important when you know your language, it's going to help you identify yourself better to your culture. So yeah, there is a big concern, especially with our generation today. There's so much more available to them. They're accessible. They have social media. They have the cell phone. They have all this technology that keeps them distracted, occupied. So minus that from our generation, we didn't have to worry about that. We only had to worry about getting to a phone or going to a movie theater, and so we had no other choice but to learn what we're supposed to learn. Here, now our challenge is trying to compete with the cell phone, the all the technology that we have.
Social media.
Yeah.
And so now, the media, and so now the next generation, either they're really going to want to learn it and they will find a way to learn it, or some of them just, it doesn't matter to them either way, they can go, and so there's a big concern.
I think that there's a you had talked about it earlier. Sometimes you don't know what you're getting while you're getting it. Like you're in that experience and you don't realize until later, wow, I got, X, Y, and Z out of it. But when you're in the moment or you're in the time, it doesn't always dawn on you, or you're not, the maturity level to understand of what you're getting isn't there at that point. And I think you make a good point, is like the standard of living now for all Americans is higher. But at the same time, you've got all the distractions now, and a lot of the Pacific Islanders now, it's not taught in the home, so it's available, but you got to want to go get it. Like you have to make a conscious effort to go get the information, because it is out there. Whereas the difference is if you grow up with it, it's kind of, that's your, it's every day.
Right.
It's it's not something you need to go seek out. It's part of how you grew up. So I think that, to your point, the distractions come into play now because it's more voluntary for them, for some of them, to go find their their language, for example. Sure, it's available out there, and there's an app for it, but there's like 30,000 other apps right next to it that are fun, or that are that are distracting to try to get those things done. So I feel for the younger generation because of things like that. Like, I mean, if I was young and when I was growing up, if there was an iPhone, I would have used it. Like I would have used every, I had things my parents didn't have when they were growing up, and I used every one of them. But there's so much now. Like there's so much, and it seems like kids know almost too much. Like they know how tough life is going to be. Like you can see now, like, wow, I know what my boss makes, or even if I get promoted, I'm going to be doing X, Y, and like, I didn't know any of that. When I started the workforce, I just jumped in, I worked as hard as I could. Promotion came along or whatever, but I never knew the big picture. And I think knowing the big picture can be harmful in some ways, because it seems like, overwhelming, like you can't get through. How have you been able to keep that mindset from within your family so that they don't get that, there's just the hill's too steep or the mountain's too big? Have you, like, how do you communicate to your kids that so they don't get that kind of mindset?
You know, it's not easy. It's not easy. One is because I have 4 children, but if they're all they have their own personality, they have their own, just way they think. They have their own mind, they have their own spirit, and it's kind of like, you kind of have to communicate 4 different ways, because they're all not going to be. There's one thing that they all have in common, that they know and they understand who I am and what I'm about. So that's then from that point on, then they realize, oh shoot, I think I pushed my button too far, or I think I need to step up, and I think for each of them, it's hard. I have, my 2 daughters, Cheyenne is 23, she'll be 24. She's engaged, but she has her own job. She's very independent. She has her own place, and so you kind of have to communicate with her in her own way, so that it's more. It's kind of like you have to tailor to every single one of them, I have Sarona, she's the youngest, and she's the last one that's left in school. She's 16 and she's the senior this year. And so she's what, is that the generation Gen Z? Is that what that gen is? Is that
How old is she?
Gen Z 16? She's 16. Is that the gen?
I think I'd be millennial. I'm not sure. I'm not
So
real
so
good.
can you imagine, like, her and her sister, 24 and 16, that's a big gap, so you kind of have to adapt, and you have to adjust your approach differently. And then I have a son, Christian, who is going to be 21 this Saturday. So boys are different. He's got a mind of his own, and he's his personality, he's very shy. Growing up, he was very shy, but now he's a more centered, spiritual type of person. So I have to communicate with him in another different way, and so I have my oldest son, Casey James, who is going to be 33. So I have 3 kids that are in November, so I have to remember that. But so Casey is 33, so there's another generation gap from 33 to 24. So he's a grown man, he's an adult, he's independent, and you just have to respect him in that way as an adult. And so communicating with them, it is a challenge, but I think the first and foremost is that they know and understand that my husband Mike and I, we always instill in them that you always got to put God first. There's nothing to it. You start with God, you end with God. You came into this life with God, you're going to go, you're going to end this life, through that and with God. And so they know that that's a big foundation for us. And then respect, they know that they're supposed to respect. I'm very fortunate, I know they make their wrong choices in life as that they're accountable for. But the biggest reward is when I go out, when people say to me, oh my gosh, I love your kids, they're so respectful, or I saw so-and-so, and there's, I saw, one of the kids, and gosh, they came and said hi to me, and I was so appreciative, because, other kids don't do that, or we were just, somewhere this weekend, and with my girls, and one of the parents came up to me and said, man, your girls are so respectful, they know exactly what to do when they do it. And I'm like, they're not perfect, and they don't know everything, they're still learning, but all we could do is keep trying. We just keep instilling, we keep trying. they're two divas in training. Trust me. They're not perfect. We go through all the same thing, all the same, female emotions. They bicker. We do everything. We're any like the Kardashians or whatever.
Yeah.
We just whatever. But then we wake up and then we have a great life and whatever. And it's but at the end of the day, they all know what the expectation is. They all know at the end of the day, they have each other. We tell them in that Psalm 1, the saying is, friends come and go, but your family is always there through the hard times.
Exactly.
And they know that. They know that they have each other. I communicate with them through text messages. I just make sure that, we stay in, communicating, throughout the day or throughout the week. Every day I send a message. Have a blessed day. I love you. At night, have a blessed and safe night. Be safe out there. And if it's a group message, but I do them each individually.
Yeah.
We do it individually. So they know that they will always have their parents, myself and their dad, Mike. We're always there for them. We try to talk to them as much as we can. But I think it's just being present, as much as you can. It's hard, parents work. We all have things to do, but I think it's just being present and just trying to be there. Having my first child, my oldest, that's where you kind of learn, your what to do, what not to do, what you could do, what you couldn't do. Unfortunately, it's always the oldest that you kind of have to trying to figure out as a parent how to be a parent, and then you just try to be better every time. That's all you could do.
I think
I always have my younger girls. They're they get away with more because I think I'm just, as time goes on, I just, not that I don't care, but like my oldest says, how come they get to wear makeup at that age and I didn't? And I was like, ugh, I don't know. I don't know.
Yes, we get soft is what it is.
Yeah, totally get soft.
You get worn down, right? The stamina
that's
thing.
it.
I think Nackie's got a question to go, but before she asks the question, I'm just going to take a minute as she asks the question and try to wrap my head around that. Somehow you're old enough to have a 33-year-old.
Right?
You look amazing.
Oh,
I was doing the math. I was like, what?
I just thought I didn't know that you had older boys. I didn't know that you had a 33-year-old sister. You look good.
Yeah, he's gonna be 33 on Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Oh wow. Now do they have
that? They're like, oh my gosh, Mom, can you go fix your hair?
Do they have the love? Do all your kids have the love for dance like you?
They all have. In some point. Casey James, who's the oldest, started dancing when he was 3. So that's when I started the group. He was 3 years old. And was he 3? Started dancing when he was 3, and then like 6, I think 6 years old. Yeah, he was 3. And then we had our first PIFA in 1995. And he was 6 years old, the first fire knife dancer at that first PIFA.
Oh,
so
wow.
He grew up dancing. It was just in him. I think when your children, you're the example for your children, and so it's that saying, you lead by example. And I think because he was around it, he was, intrigued by it as well, was dancing until he got in his teens. I think he was like 15. He was like, oh, I'm good, Mom. I'm retired.
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. So then Cheyenne has always danced since she was able to walk. Then Cheyenne, we've had our challenges throughout life. Cheyenne was diagnosed with spinal cord tumor when she was 11. So that kind of changed her dancing abilities. So it kind of shifted her journey a little bit. But that was a hardship in our life at that time. And then Christian, who was always shy, wouldn't even dance for our dance group. He would only dance for the Sunday school, and so we would always say, like, why would if you're going to dance for the Sunday school, projects, or performances, why can't you dance for us? And he was like, oh, I'm good. But then he started dancing for the group. So his whole teen years, he's 20, he's going to be 21. But his whole teen years, then he was like really into it. So you'll see him but now he's kind of like, I'm good, mom, you know? So then,
Yeah.
and then Serona, same thing, started dancing when she was able to walk. She did a lot more than the rest of them because she was able to compete
Mhm.
in different dance competitions through Tahitian, Ori Tahiti. And she was a little more, she was able to, she had more opportunities because
Right.
times were different.
Yes.
But now that she's a senior, she's, you know, and then there's COVID, it's kind of like, oh, you know,
Mhm.
we're good, you know, and I still do virtual classes now. And she's like, you know, I kind of have to like, Serena, can you do the class today? She's like, really, mom? You know, so it's kind
Yeah.
of, so they all have they do go through it, but
Yeah.
they're all kind of like, we're good. So,
Yeah. What inspired you to start Taupou Samoa?
you know, I was dancing for a long time. I started with the Okalavo, and when we did our very first luau performance in 1979, a group leader came, was there, Lika Yandel, she, from the Yandel sisters that live here in San Diego.
Wow.
She had her own dance group, professional dance group. She saw me, recruited me, and that's where I started my, I guess you could say, professional
Yeah.
dancing, where I was actually doing stage performances and getting compensated for it. And then so I went through, I was dancing with Lika, I was 16. Then I danced for, and I'm going to mention their names because I do want to give them credit, even if they're not listening or anything, but it's important because without these people, they were part of my journey. So without them, I wouldn't be where I am today, you know, without going through
Right.
that season. And so there was Lika Yandel and her beautiful sisters and cousins that had the group. And then I also performed or danced with Donna and Kawi Brown,
Oh,
which is
wow.
another group here in San Diego. I took hula from the beautiful Auntie Jean Kalani. She's like, I think 90 something years old now, 93, I
Wow.
think. So she's still around, and I'm so blessed to have her. She's a beautiful kumuhula. Let me see, what else is there? I think that was pretty much it. And then I remember taking lessons from my cousin Soa. And then there was a group that started with the Powell sisters.
Oh,
The Powell sisters, Val had started a group. She was going to start doing a group with a lot of the veteran dancers that used to dance. And then we did our first show, and then nothing really, she didn't pursue it any further. So then I had a best friend that I danced with. Her name is Kathy Lane. She'll get me if I don't mention her name, but it's Kathy Lane Stelezi. That's what we call her, Kathy Lane. But she has been my longtime friend. But she's the one that really encouraged me. She says, you know, you really should start your own group. You're talented. You have everything that you need to. You have all the tools. You have everything, that the experience.
Mhm.
And it took a leap of faith, and it took her to convince me. But she was in my ear all the time, and I started, and then I thought, all right, let's do it. So in 1990, I started with my with my two nieces and two other, my actual two nieces and my other two nieces. So I started with four little girls, and it just took off from
And
there.
here you are 30 years later,
Here I am 30 years later. I do have
celebrating
to give
30,
credit
30
to
years.
my parents. My parents were very supportive. My auntie Mua, God rest all of their souls, but my auntie Mua was always very supportive. She's the one that raised us as well. And then my brothers and sisters, and most of all my sisters, who we started the band together, Sarona and Iseta. We started the band together as vocals, and then we had our musicians. So it was it was all the support that we needed to make it happen. And without them, I wouldn't have been able to start.
That's so
So here
awesome.
I am.
Congratulations on your 30
Oh, thank
years
you.
of
Thank you.
success, of success. And you do, because of COVID, you're doing your show, your practices virtual.
Correct. Yeah. So we had just started our season at SeaWorld. It was our sixth
Oh,
season at
wow.
SeaWorld. And we had just started the first weekend, and we were getting ready to go into our second weekend. And then COVID hit and they shut it down, SeaWorld. And then, so then from there, we just instantly and automatically just converted over to virtual. And, you know, virtual's not for everybody.
Right.
Yeah, so I still have students that are taking virtual, but that's all we're doing right now. So we do like three days a week.
Awesome. Awesome. I just want to shout out some people who are screaming your name right now.
Oh,
Fatima McManus.
oh yes. Thank you, Fatima.
Aaron and Tala Zepeda.
Oh yes. Hey, Tala. Thank you.
Tanga Tavale, Norina
Oh, thank
Fatuala,
you, Marina.
and then Hopi Fangao Leati.
Yes,
course.
thank you, Hope.
Patsy still holding on strong. Po Savea Siniho.
Oh, yeah. Love you, Paul. My cousin Paul.
Mark Tango and Eseta Sotoa. You've got to know who that is.
Thank
She's
you.
Screaming,
Thank you,
hi,
Mark. I love you,
sister. And Kiki's
And
love, Ayala Esparza. There you go.
oh, thank you so much. My sister Eseta.
Yes.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we real quick, we'd like to shout out, you know, your husband Mike for all his amazing support and the wonderful job that he lets you do, and not let you do, but you know, he lets you be yourself.
No, you know what?
And that's awesome.
Honestly, I think I'm gonna cry really now, but honestly, yeah, it's important to have a partner and you know, your spouse who's going to be supportive. He lets me be me.
Yes.
He's always supportive. He's our band leader. He's just been so wonderful and so understanding and so patient, and he puts up with a lot. And I'm just so grateful and blessed, and I just thank him so much, because we wouldn't be able to do what we all do, my children and I, if it weren't for him to be the person he is. He's also our, you know, kind of like a devil's advocate. You know, he's like the person who kind of makes you like, hey, you should think about this before you do this. And he's a good advisor, a good counselor, and a great support. He's to put up with me for all these years. Yes.
Yay.
Thank you, honey. I love you. I don't even know if he's paying attention. And he's very humble, very humble.
I think the people that do community activism that, you know, are so involved with the community, there's so many hours that are put in, and new project after new project after new project, that the spouse is in every single one of those heartbreaking losses in community work. Right. They're in every one of the huge roller coaster wins. Nackie and I always joke about, we got in a car accident in 2017, and it was a blessing. I mean, we had good things ended up happening out of it, but now every time somebody kind of swerves into our lane, we're like, hey, our spouses aren't going to let us play together anymore. Another car wreck.
If we get into one more car accident, it's done. PBD is shut down.
But it's just a credit to all the spouses of, you know, a Patsy, a Kiki, Nackie, you know what I mean? Like, there's spouses at home that support, and not just support as in like you can spend money on this thing, but support as in like you're gone every weekend. You're right. Doing all these, you know, these things, trying to lift your people. Yeah, spouses don't, you know, if there's a community activist that's successful, there's somebody with that person that's very understanding of where they spend their time. So
absolutely, you sacrifice a lot. We sacrifice the time with our family.
Yes.
And for them to be that other side, to hold it together while we're out doing what we're doing, because we're so passionate about a cause. Yeah, it's a true blessing. So,
true blessing.
So thankful for him.
Yay. Now I see your hands. You have the beautiful art on you. And somebody had asked a question because they seen your picture that we had posted. Can you please ask her where she got it and what it means? And so everyone has, when you get your tatau, usually a story comes, and well, always a story comes with it, and your family lineage, and so.
Wow. Well, thank you for asking. You know, I'm a believer that things happen for a reason and there's a purpose for everything. Today, November 10th, happens to be the 4-year anniversary when I got my hands tattooed.
Oh, wow.
4 years today.
We had you on today.
Yeah. Remember, and we were supposed to do it like a
A
week
couple
ago.
of weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, but and then it just dawned on me today, like, wow, November 10th is the day I got it in 2016.
Wow.
So I am proud to say that I wear the Malu on my legs, and it was done by Pika Suluape in 2008 in Samoa. Um, that was a very humbling and proud experience. And I knew that someday I would want to get my hands. And and I remember having a conversation maybe another time when we crossed paths. Pika Pika was a tattoo artist for the Moana movie. So when he came here to California for the movie premiere of Moana, he uh, he was here, stayed in Fontana at the time while he was here, and I set up the time to go see him to do my hands. And I pretty much left it to him to decide what he wanted to do, because he had asked me and I told him it's up to you, whatever you decide. So basically my hands, this part of my hand is the front side of my legs, and then this is the actual Malu part of the legs, and this is the back side of my legs.
Wow.
So that's the significance for me having the hands. There's a lot of, well, no, I should say a lot, but there's different, people there's expressions of what the Malu on the hands is for. I truly believe that the hands could be an extension of your Malu, because your hands is what you do when you balu the ava, which is, the task of the Taupou, to be able to balu and serve the ava for you to dance with. So it's just an extension from your legs to your hands, and serving, protecting, holding the family together. The other example of what the tattoos on your hand was a form of helping with what's the word? Arthritis. So it helps with, it was a method to help with arthritis in the joints. So there's different explanations of what the hands are for. So I think it just depends on who you're getting it from and who's expressing it. Of course, it's the tufuna who's always the one that's explaining what your motifs are about and what his art is about. But I like to believe that the malu on the hands is an extension of who you are wearing the malu, pretty much. And it's also, like they say, it's a way of treating arthritis.
Right. We have someone on our PBD team, Maury, who has a Malu too, and we never see it. We just never see it unless she's at a Samoan function and we're gathering, dancing around the Taupou. And she said, "It's not my Malu, it's my family's, and I represent my family. So when I show it, in the way that I show it, is me respecting my family." Um, what we had mentioned earlier, just we were going to touch on it really light or real quick, is the people that are not Samoan that are getting, and there's a lot that we've seen, a lot of non-Samoan or non-Pacific Islanders getting Malus or be'as, and it's such a big controversy that I know that it's going on there down south in San Diego. What are your thoughts on, if there's a quick answer to that?
Oh, geez. Well, I gosh, it's kind of like, how do you say it without I'm just gonna keep it real.
Keep it real, girl.
That's the only way to do it. So
That was the rumor going in, and she's going to tell you what she
I
thinks.
mean, I'm trying to be diplomatic because that's how we were taught to be diplomatic, to consider, what we say and the way we say it. But to be honest, like it's funny you asked that because we just experienced something like that here a couple weeks ago. We had a non-Samoan, two of them that I don't know if he's full non-Samoan or just a part Samoan. I'm not sure, but I know they received the Malu the Pe'a, through the traditional way here in San Diego, and they're non-Samoan. It was done here a couple weeks ago, and of course, one of the individuals, it actually is part of the community, the dancing community. He's around our Samoan community.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually attends the Samoan church, does not speak Samoan, does not kaukua in the Samoan way that we are supposed to. So he attempted to get his tatau and got it. I know that there were, as the news was getting around, a lot of the people in the community, the Samoans, were very much upset about it. A lot of people were voicing their opinions about it. People were voicing their opinions about it on social media. So it became an issue. It became an issue. A couple, especially some of us that wear the La'e Samoa, the Malu and the Malu, there was a group of us that got together and expressed our concerns about it. One of the main things is that the journey that we had to take to receive it it's not something you take lightly. It's something that we take pride. It's part of our identity. It's part of who we are as Samoans. And when we found out about this, we decided that we were going to have a voice because it was happening in our backyard. So we approached the Tufuma out of respect, out of honesty and respect, clean heart. We approached him just to fight law, just to let him know how we felt.
Right.
And that we knew that the bottom line is at the end of the day, the decision is going to be left up to him because he holds the tools.
Right.
So we expressed how we felt. That was done. And then I had a conversation, and some other people had a conversation with the individual that was getting the tatau. That was done, and it still happened. So it left our community in an upheaval, I guess you could say.
Right.
People are still upset about it. The tatau has been completed, and people are still upset. It's a rites of passage. We grew up believing in what our parents and their ancestors have shared with them and told them throughout the years. And it's something that we believe in, and we feel that, if you love our culture that much, have the respect for it.
Right. If
you love our culture that much, our motifs and our patterns are spread around the world already anyway. Get a tattoo, get a kaulima, get a kauvai, get something, get tattoo Samoa on your chest. I don't care. Right. But this, leave this. This is Measina Samoa. This is our treasure. Leave this for us. Leave this for our children, our children's children that carry the blood of Samoa in them, And this individual asked me a few years ago, Auntie, I was thinking about getting a pe'a, and what do you think? And I said, my belief is that tatau was given to the Samoan people. This is my own personal belief. So if anybody is hearing this,
right.
This
chill out.
And I'm sure people feel the same way. But because I'm given this opportunity and platform to say it, I'm going to say it, and I have no shame to say it. but I believe that God gave this gift to the Samoan people, and it is for the Samoan people. And if it was meant and intended for the world or anybody else but Samoan, then it would have been that way, but it's not. So, these are treasures that we keep dear and close and deep to our hearts, that our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors sacrificed to keep this for ourselves, even through the colonization, even through Christianity, even through, all those years and times past. I mean, this is something that is sacred to us. And, okay, forget the, if the tufuna is going to do it, but it is the individual who's going to receive it as well. So it's a responsibility for both.
Two people, yes.
Two people, the one who's giving it and the one who's receiving it. And so to me, as it's important that we bring awareness and we educate, but I believe that the tatau, the malu fiat, the malu should be kept within our Samoan people alone.
Right, right.
It's really strong
Did that
feelings
answer the
about that.
question?
Yeah, no, it does. And there's really strong feelings about that. We've had this as a topic on I don't know, 5 or 6 different shows.
Right.
And
Really?
what I like is that I like when people say how they feel. It's when people kind of dance around like, well, I think that, it really shouldn't, but then, the tufunga needs to make a living, or, it's like, I just want to hear how people feel. And to hear somebody say like, no, I don't think that shouldn't happen. It's for, it's something sacred that we hold in our culture. Um, it's refreshing to hear that, to just say that that's exactly how I feel, because we've had these discussions with
Right.
several people, not more than 2 or 3 we've had this discussion with.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes down to, I can't really tell what you're saying, what your answer
was.
Right.
I know what your answer is.
How do
Kiki.
you
No, so
really
I mean,
feel?
if you look at it this way, and sometimes, as those that wear it and have received it, it's almost like, what was the purpose of you getting it then? So if I see a non-Samoan, they say it's olekaukua, is to serve. It's your service to the family, to the village, right? I mean, aside from trying to justify service, right? Obviously, but the point is if you serve, you've done everything you possibly can to serve in the village, to serve the family, to learn the language, but you are not Samoan. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's your conscience that you have to live with. I could easily have gone to a different culture myself, but I know deep down, the blood that's in my veins is Samoan, not Chamorro, not Filipino, not Hawaiian, not Tongan. It's Samoan. So if I happen to embrace another culture, learn the language, do what I'm supposed to do to serve that culture, how can I give respect and justice to that culture by trying to take something that was intended for this culture? You know what I mean? And so
Yep.
it could go either way. It could go both ways. And how would you feel if it was the other way around?
Right.
And
As
to
Tessa
me,
just said, my father always said, tattoo your mouth before tattoo your body.
that is correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And that is true. That is very true. And some people say, well, I do know how to speak the language. Right. That's okay. But if you're Samoan, some of us who get it, we still are learning.
Right.
We're still learning. And then some who get it and have no idea of why or what they got it for, or maybe their reasoning was different than what we were taught to receive it, then that's on them. But from that point on, that's your journey you need to do. But if you're not Samoan, how are you even going to link that to your ancestors? What ancestor do you have to stand on?
Right.
What line of what lineage? Where does it come from? Where do you get your blessings from?
Right.
The first thing they say is, oh, oeo makua. You know, "Olaling
Exactly.
ukisumay." You know, where do you come from? Who are
What,
your
yep,
parents?
what
You know,
village are
and
you
those
from?
are things that you link. They're tied down from generation to generation. And so for us that wear it, and then for some of us that think it's okay, you're gonna give it away that easy? You know, like how did you like I didn't even get mine till I was 44 years old. And I had been wanting it since I was young. I know as a young adult, I've been wanting it. My dad knew the pain. My dad wore the Malu as well. But my dad was a very known and seasoned orator. And he would always tell me, no, it's too much pain, Kiki, you don't want it, you know? But years of serving and doing stuff in the community and doing stuff for our family and learning and learning and learning and speaking, not even being born in Samoa, but it ran in my veins,
Yes.
you know? And it wasn't until I was 44 years old and he said, you know, you can wear the mug. And for him to say to me his last words to say to me before I went to go get it, I was in Samoa, he was home here in San Diego. I spoke to him on the phone to get his encouragement, to hear his voice that morning, and his last words before we hung up was "Hiki mangwelo ka okoma," you know, be blessed in your receiving this. So to me, I take that, you
Yeah.
know, because I knew he took that. And so I take it for my family, I take it for him, I take it for my parents, my siblings, you know, and those before us, you
Right.
know? And so for me, how can you not have what I have? Take that, you know? And so to me, that's where it belongs. That's our Messina. That's why they call it Messina, because it's our treasure for us to keep. You
Right.
know, it's not Messina Olelalolangi. No, Messina Asamoah. And it's something we need to protect, we need to treasure, and we need to hold on for our future. My girls, for their girls, for our daughters, and those are things that we need to stand for.
That's right. Oh my
Sorry.
gosh.
No, don't be
No,
sorry.
no, thank you.
Unapologetic.
No, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. It's an ongoing conversation, ongoing debate
Yeah.
that we often have because there's so many ways that people take it. And,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's our culture, and it's handed down from generation to generation, and you represent your family, your ancestors, and it's not taken lightly. Not everyone can get it, and it's like the culture. The longer we're here, our language, it gets a little watered. We don't want this to get watered down, and we don't want it to go away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point with the Polynesian designs, the Samoan art is everywhere. You know what I mean? Like you
Mhm.
see it in places that are some are Pacific Islander. Like there are events and flyers and things where they just grab something off the internet and like, oh, this looks cool, and then they put it up and use it, and it's our art. So there's got to be something, right?
Yeah.
That I think that's the feeling. Is like something sacred, like the designs end up somewhere. You know, different things from the culture end up other places, but those things should remain sacred.
Right. And I mean, I know people, especially the younger ones that, they have to understand it's not a trend.
Right.
It's not a
Yeah.
trend. It's not a trend. It's a way of life for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those who are non-Samoan that receive it, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to represent it? How are you going to even be respected for it? How are you going to go kua? How are you even going to know if you don't even speak the language? How are you going to understand how to use that malofia if you don't even understand what's being told to you?
Right.
Right. Right.
So how do you serve if you don't know what you're serving? So
Right.
those are things that people need to think about. I know that it started a conversation, a larger group of a large group of us that started a conversation. Those that wear the Malufi and the Malu, we just because of this, I don't want to say incident, but because of this, whatever happened, that it started a bigger conversation, a larger conversation with some of us, and that wear the La'e Samoa, and now we're just trying to build this I don't want to say a coalition maybe, or this
Wow.
group, so that we can figure out how do we go forward and make it positive, in a positive way. How do we go forward from here to bring awareness and to educate, you know, the rest of the world or our community or even our own, you know? So,
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We went past our hour.
oh my
I mean,
gosh. I'm
we
so
don't want to take up any more of your time and your family's time, sister. Thank you so, so much. Congratulations to your 30 years, your
Thank
30th
you.
anniversary for Taupou Samoa. Thank you
you
for all the
so much.
wonderful, wonderful work that you're doing there in San Diego.
We will see you in 2021.
Yes, we will definitely be
Yes,
there
yes,
for
definitely.
PIFA. Thank you so much. God bless your journey.
Thank
We
you so
love
much. I just
you,
want to say
sister.
thank you, thank you, thank you for having me on. Thank you for allowing me to share. Happy birthday, Carl.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Don't
you.
look a day over 30.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and continue to do what you're doing to open this platform for all of us to be able to share. And I really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I
Thank
love
you
you.
so much. Love you.
Love you.
Take
All right.
care.
Thank you.